The first thing visitors noticed about Habitat Aurora wasn't its breathtaking crystal skyline or the endless rivers of glowing stardust flowing beneath transparent walkways. It was the laughter. Human laughter echoed through corridors where dozens of alien species lived side by side, and somehow that laughter usually meant one thing: someone had underestimated a human again. That human was Amelia. No one would have guessed the elegant woman walking through the station's central market was secretly responsible for keeping one of the wealthiest-looking families in the sector from financial collapse. Every merchant greeted her with warm smiles. "Morning, Ms. Amelia. The usual coffee? Your monthly account has already been updated." She thanked each of them before continuing toward the magnetic train that carried commuters through the station's massive rotating ring. Around her, aliens of every imaginable shape hurried to work. Tiny blue engineers floated on anti-gravity discs while towering reptilian businessmen argued over stock prices. A pair of furry twins accidentally ordered 500 kilograms of cheese because they misunderstood a translation program, causing delivery drones to chase them across the station. Just another normal morning. Amelia couldn't help smiling. Humans had only joined the Galactic Union 20 years earlier, yet somehow they had already earned a reputation. Humans were practical. Humans kept promises. Humans actually read contracts before signing them. The last point alone terrified half the galaxy's lawyers. Her husband, Kaler, belonged to the elegant Lyran race. Tall, silver-haired, and impossibly charming, he looked like the kind of man who had everything under control. Every family gathering, every public event, every gala made people whisper about what a perfect couple they were. Only Amelia knew the truth. Kaler had an extraordinary talent. He could spend money faster than a black hole swallowed stars. If a salesman said something was limited edition, Kaler bought two. If someone claimed a luxury hover yacht had self-polishing windows, he considered it a necessity. If a holographic advertisement featured dramatic music, his wallet practically opened itself. He wasn't reckless because he was selfish. He was reckless because he genuinely believed everything would somehow work out. Mostly because Amelia always made sure it did. She worked as one of the highest-paid financial strategists in the Galactic Treasury, helping entire planetary governments recover from economic disasters. Her ability to balance impossible budgets had become legendary. Ironically, she performed the exact same job at home. Every month she quietly paid the apartment mortgage, the family shuttle lease, medical insurance, power costs, water recycling fees, communication satellites, food deliveries, household maintenance, vacation reservations, and one expense she never complained about: college tuition. Kaler's daughter, Lyra, had entered her life 6 years earlier. At first the teenager had been shy and unsure about having a human stepmother. Amelia never tried replacing her mother. Instead, she became something much simpler. Someone who showed up. Homework? Amelia helped. School projects? Amelia stayed awake all night. Science fairs? Amelia cheered louder than anyone. Birthday parties? Amelia organized every detail. Even during the awkward teenage years, Amelia patiently listened whenever Lyra complained about school, friends, or impossible professors. She loved the girl. Maybe not because they shared blood, but because love had never cared much about biology. As the years passed, however, things slowly changed. Kaler spoiled Lyra constantly. If she wanted designer gravity boots, she got them. If she wanted the newest quantum phone, it appeared the next day. If she wanted expensive concert tickets on another moon, Kaler somehow made it happen. Neither of them ever questioned where the money came from. Whenever bills arrived, Amelia quietly handled them before anyone else even noticed. It became routine. Too routine. One evening the family gathered around the dining table overlooking the stars. Their apartment was one of the finest on Habitat Aurora, with floor-to-ceiling windows displaying entire nebulae drifting through space. Dinner looked perfect. Until Lyra arrived. She dropped her school bag onto the table, ignored everyone's greeting, grabbed dessert before the main course, and activated her holographic tablet during dinner. The family service robot politely chimed. Table etiquette reminder number 43. Lyra rolled her eyes. Silence. The robot immediately entered sleep mode. Kayla laughed. Kids. Amelia gently placed her fork down. Lyra, sweetheart, let's finish dinner first. Your professors have already complained that you're distracted in class. A little time away from screens won't hurt. The words were calm. Kind. Exactly the way she'd spoken for years. Lyra sighed dramatically. You're always correcting me. I'm only trying to help. Before another word could be spoken, Kayla leaned back in his chair. His expression wasn't angry. It was dismissive. Amelia. She looked at him. She's not your daughter. Silence spread across the dining room. Kayla continued eating as though he had merely commented on the weather. Don't correct her. The room suddenly felt colder. Even the household AI paused its background music. Lyra looked uncomfortable for a brief second before saying nothing. Amelia stared at her husband. 6 years? 6 years of school pickups. Doctor appointments. Late-night homework. Birthday cakes. Tuition payments. Encouragement. Love. Reduced to one sentence. She's not your daughter. Don't correct her. Kayla expected an argument. He expected tears. Maybe even anger. Instead, Amelia smiled. Not a sarcastic smile. Not a bitter one. Just calm acceptance. She slowly folded her napkin, placed it beside her plate, and nodded once. Understood. That was all she said? No raised voice. No lecture. No accusations? She simply finished her meal in complete silence. Kayla relaxed immediately, believing the discussion was over. Lyra returned to her tablet. The conversation shifted toward vacation plans, luxury shopping, and university events. Neither of them noticed Amelia quietly opening her wrist communicator beneath the table. She reviewed a list of recurring payments connected to the household. Mortgage. Utilities. Vehicle lease. Entertainment subscriptions. Luxury memberships. Medical coverage. And finally, Lyra's entire university tuition fund. One by one, Amelia calmly switched every automatic payment from active to manual approval. The system displayed a simple message after each change. Payment schedule suspended. She closed the screen without saying another word. Outside the apartment window, countless stars shimmered peacefully across the galaxy. Inside, everyone except Amelia believed life would continue exactly as it always had. None of them realized that the woman they had just told to stop acting like family had quietly decided to do exactly that. The following morning looked exactly like every other morning on Habitat Aurora. The artificial sunrise washed the station in warm golden light, while thousands of ships glided silently outside the enormous observation windows. Delivery drones zipped between towers carrying breakfast orders, luxury clothing, rare flowers from distant planets, and one confused chicken that had somehow escaped an agricultural transport. Nobody questioned why a chicken was floating through one of the galaxy's most advanced cities. Someone simply shrugged and said, "Human cargo." That explanation somehow satisfied everyone. Inside the apartment, Amelia prepared coffee while reading the latest economic reports. Kayla walked into the kitchen wearing an expensive silk robe made from the threads of moon spiders, proudly announcing he'd found an even newer luxury hoverbike online. "It has heated seats." Amelia nodded politely. "Sounds comfortable. I think I'll order it today." She smiled over the rim of her coffee cup. "You should." That answer surprised him. Usually she'd ask whether they actually needed another vehicle. Today she didn't. He assumed she had finally learned to relax. He couldn't have been more wrong. Meanwhile, Amelia's communicator quietly confirmed that every suspended payment had successfully remained inactive. Mortgage. Pending. Luxury food subscription. Expired. Entertainment network. Payment overdue. Premium transportation account. Inactive. University tuition. Awaiting payment. She closed the notifications without the slightest hint of emotion. At breakfast, Lyra reached for her favorite imported fruit juice. The refrigerator beeped. Subscription inactive. Basic nutritional beverages are available. The refrigerator politely dispensed plain filtered water. Lyra frowned. That's strange. Kayla laughed. Probably a software update. Neither of them gave it another thought. 2 hours later, Kayla arrived at his office overlooking the Central Trade District. He greeted coworkers with his usual confidence before sitting behind his desk. His communicator immediately exploded with alerts. Payment reminder. Payment reminder. Membership expired. Invoice overdue. Service suspended. Vehicle account requires attention. His smile slowly disappeared. What in the stars? His assistant peeked inside. Sir, are you all right? Kayla forced a laugh. Minor accounting issue. The assistant nodded. Of course. The moment the door closed, Kayla opened the first notification. Luxury Shuttle Club. Payment declined. The second. Sky Lounge membership. Payment overdue. The third. Residential Utility Authority. Automatic payment unavailable. The fourth. Home AI Premium Intelligence Package. Subscription expires in 6 hours. He blinked. Impossible. Those accounts always renewed automatically. He tried contacting the bank. Good morning, the cheerful AI answered. How may Galactic National Bank assist you? My automatic payments failed. Reviewing records. A short pause followed. The payments were not declined by the bank. What? They were manually suspended by the account owner. Kayla frowned. Account owner? The AI projected Amelia's authorization signature. His stomach tightened. Back at the apartment, Amelia continued her work from home without the slightest interruption. Her career involved rescuing planetary economies from disaster. Compared to negotiating with stubborn politicians, ignoring household drama felt wonderfully peaceful. Her communicator buzzed. Incoming call. Kayla. She answered calmly. Everything okay? Our payments stopped. I know. You know? I changed them. Why? She answered without looking away from her financial charts. I assumed you wanted separate responsibilities. What are you talking about? You told me Lyra isn't my daughter. Yes? So I stopped paying for responsibilities that aren't mine. Silence. Kayla laughed nervously. Amelia, don't joke. I'm not. The call ended before he found another response. Across the city, Lyra sat inside one of the galaxy's finest universities. Students from dozens of species filled enormous lecture halls equipped with floating holographic instructors. Just before class began, every student's tablet synchronized with the university network. A notification appeared. Account status, tuition payment pending. Please contact the financial office. Her eyes widened. She immediately messaged her father. Dad, something's wrong with my tuition. He quickly replied. It's probably a mistake. Unfortunately, it wasn't. By lunchtime, Lyra stood inside the financial office where an elderly turtle-like administrator adjusted his spectacles. I'm sorry, he said kindly. Your tuition installment has not been received. There must be an error. He checked again. No error. My parents always pay. The records show every payment for the last 6 years came from one account. He turned the monitor toward her. Account holder. Amelia Carter. Lyra stared at the screen. Wait. The administrator smiled politely. She has an excellent payment history. She paid everything? Every semester. Lyra suddenly remembered something. Every time she thanked her father for supporting her education. He had simply smiled. He'd never actually said he paid for it. For the first time, she wondered how many things she'd assumed were true. At that exact moment, Amelia attended a diplomatic finance conference held inside the Galactic Treasury. During a break, someone approached her table. He was tall, dressed in a Navy diplomatic uniform trimmed with silver, and unlike most politicians, he carried no unnecessary arrogance. Commander Orion, one of the Union's youngest diplomatic advisors. He smiled warmly. I heard you saved another planetary economy. She chuckled. I mostly convinced politicians to stop buying unnecessary monuments. He laughed. Humans really do perform miracles. And aliens really do enjoy expensive statues. Guilty. Their conversation flowed effortlessly. They joked about cultural misunderstandings, about alien taxes, about how humans somehow manage to survive despite constantly adopting dangerous pets. I still can't believe humans willingly keep animals with teeth inside their homes, Orion admitted. Amelia grinned. Some of them even sleep in our beds. He nearly spilled his drink laughing. No wonder everyone says humans are fearless. Nearby diplomats glanced toward them. It had been weeks since anyone had seen Amelia genuinely laugh. The sound suited her. Meanwhile, Kayla's afternoon became progressively worse. His company shuttle refused premium parking. His luxury coffee account was suspended. Even his favorite massage chair displayed a message. Membership expired. Please renew. He muttered under his breath. This can't all be happening today. Then came the final notification. Urgent. University payment required within 7 standard days. Failure to pay may result in enrollment suspension. Kayla immediately called Amelia again. Lyra's tuition needs to be paid. I know. Transfer the money. She calmly closed another financial report. You told me college expenses were family money. They are. I was also told she's not my daughter. Another long silence filled the call. Finally she spoke in the same calm voice she'd used at dinner. Her education has always been important to me because I loved helping raise her. But if I have no place in parenting her, then I also have no obligation to finance that role. For the first time since their marriage, Kayla had absolutely nothing to say. And for the first time in years, he was beginning to realize that the most valuable thing in their home had never been the apartment, the luxury memberships, or the expensive lifestyle. It had been the quiet human who had made all of it possible without ever asking for recognition. News traveled surprisingly fast across Habitat Aurora. By the end of the week, everyone seemed to know that something unusual had happened inside one of the station's most admired families. No one knew the details. They only knew Kayla suddenly looked as if gravity had doubled whenever another payment notification appeared. The first real disaster arrived 3 days later. Lyra entered her university expecting to continue her classes as usual. Instead, her student identification bracelet flashed bright orange as she walked through the entrance. Enrollment temporarily restricted. Several students turned toward her. She forced a nervous smile. There must be a mistake. The security drone politely escorted her to the financial office. The elderly administrator greeted her with sympathy. I'm afraid the tuition deadline has passed. My father said he was handling it. I'm sorry, but unless payment is received, you'll need to postpone this semester. Lyra slowly lowered her eyes. For the first time in years, she walked out of the university carrying her books instead of attending lectures. Back at home, Kayla was having a terrible day of his own. He had spent the morning trying to qualify for an emergency education loan. The bank manager adjusted his holographic glasses before delivering the answer. I'm sorry, sir. I've been a customer for years. You have. So approve the loan. The manager cleared his throat. Our records indicate that your household expenses have been covered almost entirely by your wife's income. Kayla shifted uncomfortably. That's temporary. The manager projected a financial chart into the air. Actually, it's been 6 years. The room became painfully quiet. The manager continued politely. Without her documented income supporting the household, your current financial profile doesn't qualify. Kayla stared at the report. He had never looked closely at their finances. He had simply assumed everything balanced itself. Apparently, everything balanced because Amelia made it balance. He left the bank carrying nothing except embarrassment. Unfortunately, his week was about to become much worse. Months earlier, Kaler had invited several relatives to visit Habitat Aurora. His older brother, 2 cousins, an aunt famous for criticizing absolutely everyone, and 3 energetic nieces who considered expensive furniture an obstacle course. The family shuttle arrived exactly on schedule. Kayla welcomed everyone with forced enthusiasm. "Welcome! You'll love staying with us." His aunt looked around the luxurious apartment. "I expect the usual hospitality." Kayla smiled nervously. "So do I." 5 minutes later, the home may I interrupted. "Attention! Premium hospitality package has expired. Activating economy mode." The elegant background music stopped. Half the decorative lights switched off. The indoor waterfall shut down. The temperature dropped 2 degrees. The expensive aroma system stopped producing exotic floral scents and instead released the faint smell of recycled air. His youngest niece blinked. "Uncle, did your house get sad?" Before anyone answered, the kitchen announced another message. "Luxury food subscription unavailable. Preparing economical meal plan." Everyone gathered around the dining table. Instead of gourmet dishes prepared by famous robotic chefs, the kitchen served identical gray nutrient cubes. Each plate looked exactly the same. Kayla's cousin poked one carefully. "Is it alive?" The AI answered cheerfully. "Nutritionally complete." His aunt sniffed hers. "It smells like disappointment." One niece whispered. "Can we season disappointment?" Even Amelia couldn't stop herself from smiling. She quietly added a little human hot sauce from her personal cabinet. The entire table watched. 1 bite later, every alien relative reached for the bottle. "What is this magic? Humans call it hot sauce. It hurts." "That's the point." Within seconds, everyone except Kayla laughed, while desperately drinking water. For the first time all week, Amelia genuinely enjoyed dinner. The comedy continued the next morning. Kayla attempted to drive his luxury hover sedan to work. The vehicle politely refused to start. "Insurance renewal required," he sighed. He took public transportation instead. The crowded commuter train was packed with workers from dozens of planets. Someone recognized him. "Aren't you the guy with the silver hover sedan?" Kayla forced a smile. "It's getting serviced." Meanwhile, Amelia attended another financial conference hosted by the Galactic Treasury. During a break, she found herself standing beside Commander Orion again. He offered her a cup of fresh Terran coffee. "I remembered humans prefer real coffee instead of synthetic energy drinks." She looked pleasantly surprised. "You remembered? I pay attention." She accepted the cup. "Thank you." They spent the afternoon discussing cultural traditions. Orion admitted he admired humanity for something most species didn't understand. "You humans protect people without expecting immediate rewards." Amelia laughed softly. "Sometimes we expect at least a little appreciation." "That's reasonable." He looked at her thoughtfully. "You know, kindness shouldn't become invisible simply because it's consistent." The sentence lingered in her mind. No flirting. No dramatic confession. Just sincere respect. It felt strangely comforting. Back at the apartment, Lyra quietly entered Amelia's home office. For several moments she simply stood there. Finally she spoke. "Can I ask you something?" Amelia smiled gently. "Of course. Were you really paying my tuition?" "Yes." "For all 6 years?" "Every semester." Lyra looked stunned. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" Amelia closed her laptop. "Because I wasn't buying your love. I wanted you to have opportunities." Lyra swallowed hard. "I thought Dad." "I know." Silence filled the room. Images flashed through Lyra's memory. Every school event Amelia attended. Every late-night study session. Every science competition. Every birthday. Every encouraging hug before difficult exams. She suddenly realized something painful. Her stepmother had never once reminded her how much she sacrificed. Not once. Yet the moment one cruel sentence was spoken, everything changed. Tears formed in Lyra's eyes. "I've been unfair to you." Amelia reached across the desk and gently squeezed her hand. "You've been influenced. There is a difference." Across the apartment, Kayla overheard part of the conversation. For the first time since the argument, he didn't feel angry. He felt ashamed. He replayed that dinner in his mind. "She's not your daughter." At the time, the words had seemed harmless. Now they echoed like the most expensive sentence he had ever spoken. Not because it had cost him luxury memberships. Not because it had frozen the tuition fund. Not even because it had exposed his financial dependence. It hurt because he was finally beginning to understand that Amelia had never been acting like an outsider trying to control his daughter. She had been acting like family. And he had been the one who pushed her out. The apartment had never been so quiet. Not because people were angry. Because everyone was thinking. For nearly a week, nobody had argued. Nobody had raised their voice. The silence itself had become the loudest lesson in the house. Kayla stood alone on the observation balcony long after sunset, watching freighters drift between the stars. For the first time since marrying Amelia, he wasn't thinking about vacations, luxury vehicles, or expensive upgrades. He was thinking about every unnoticed sacrifice. He remembered coming home after buying an overpriced entertainment system. Amelia had smiled. He remembered surprising Lyra with designer school equipment. Amelia had smiled. He remembered every holiday, every celebration, every family dinner. Amelia had quietly arranged everything. He had accepted it all as though it happened by magic. Now he finally understood. Magic had a name. And he had taken it for granted. The following morning he walked into Amelia's office carrying 2 cups of real Terran coffee. He hesitated before speaking. "I owe you an apology." She looked up from her computer but didn't interrupt. He took a deep breath. "I kept telling myself I was protecting Lyra." Another pause. "But I wasn't. I was pushing away the person who cared about her the most." His voice grew softer. "When I told you she wasn't your daughter, I wasn't just rejecting your opinion. I rejected 6 years of love." Amelia watched him quietly. There were no dramatic tears. No shouting. Just honesty. "I don't expect you to forgive me immediately," he continued. "But I needed you to hear me say that I was wrong. I should have thanked you. I should have stood beside you. Instead, I made you feel like an outsider in your own home." For the first time since the argument, Amelia's expression softened. "I never wanted recognition," she said quietly. "I only wanted respect. You had both. I just didn't realize it." A gentle knock interrupted them. Lyra stood in the doorway holding a small photo album. "I think this belongs in this conversation." She opened the album. The first picture showed Amelia helping her build a science project. Another showed Amelia teaching her how to ride a magnetic hoverboard. Another captured Amelia staying beside her hospital bed after a childhood accident. Then birthdays, graduations, school performances. Hundreds of memories. Lyra wiped away a tear. "I kept saying you weren't my real parent." She laughed sadly. "But every important memory I have." She turned another page. "You're standing right beside me." She closed the album. "I'm sorry. I believed the person who spoke the loudest instead of the person who showed up every single day." Amelia stood and hugged her. The embrace lasted only a few seconds. It was enough. That afternoon they gathered around the dining table once again. This time there were no luxury meals. No expensive decorations. Just homemade food prepared together. Ironically, it tasted much better. Kayla placed a notebook on the table. "I've been reviewing our finances." Everyone looked surprised. "I finally understand where every credit has been going." He smiled awkwardly. "I also learned that I apparently spend enough each month to fund a small moon." Lyra laughed. "So that's where my allowance disappeared." "It wasn't your allowance. It was my terrible decision-making." Even Amelia laughed. Kayla continued. From today forward, we split responsibilities. I pay my share. No more assuming someone else will handle everything. Lyra raised her hand dramatically. I'd like to volunteer something too. Everyone looked toward her. I found a work-study position at the university. I won't earn much, but I want to contribute toward my education. Amelia smiled proudly. That's a wonderful decision. Kayla nodded. I'm proud of you. The tuition payment was eventually restored, but under completely different circumstances. Not because anyone demanded it. Because everyone agreed that supporting one another meant sharing both responsibility and appreciation. A few days later, Amelia attended another Treasury conference. Commander Orion greeted her with his familiar warm smile. I heard things are better at home. She nodded. They are. I'm glad. So am I. He chuckled. I suppose that means I'll have to give up my dream of convincing the galaxy's smartest human financial strategist to join every diplomatic mission. She smiled. Nice try. He laughed. I had to ask. Instead of disappointment, there was mutual respect. Before leaving, Orion extended his hand. The galaxy needs more families that learn from mistakes. Amelia shook it warmly. And more friends who remind people of their worth. As he walked away, she realized something important. Real admiration didn't always become romance. Sometimes the greatest gift another person could offer was helping you remember your own value. Weeks passed. Life inside the apartment slowly returned to normal. Only this time, everyone noticed the little things. Kayla started cooking dinner every Friday. His first attempt somehow triggered the smoke alarms, confused the kitchen AI, and caused the robotic vacuum to declare the soup a biological hazard. Even the neighbors laughed. By the third week, his cooking became almost edible. The household considered it tremendous progress. Lyra balanced classes with her new campus job. She proudly bought groceries using money she had earned herself. When she handed Amelia a small bag of her favorite coffee beans, Amelia looked genuinely surprised. I remembered this as your favorite. You didn't have to. I wanted to. One ordinary evening, another payment notification appeared on the apartment screen. Electricity bill. Kayla proudly pressed the payment button himself. The home AI immediately announced in an overly dramatic voice. Congratulations. Household bill successfully paid. Achievement unlocked. Responsible adult, level 1. Colorful holographic fireworks exploded across the living room. Confetti cannons activated from the ceiling. Even cheerful music began playing. Lyra burst into laughter. Did the AI just give Dad an award for paying one bill? The AI answered proudly. Positive reinforcement increases long-term behavioral success. Kayla covered his face. I am never living this down. Amelia laughed harder than she had in years. So, should we throw you a parade when you pay next month's mortgage? Please don't. I can't promise anything. Everyone laughed together. Outside, stars continued to shine over Habitat Aurora, just as they always had. Inside, something far more valuable had been rebuilt. Not wealth. Not luxury. Trust. Respect. And the simple understanding that family isn't defined by biology or by who speaks the loudest. It's defined by the people who choose, day after day, to stand beside one another with kindness, accountability, and love. Among all the remarkable qualities humans had introduced to the galaxy, perhaps the greatest wasn't their intelligence or determination. It was their willingness to give everything for the people they loved, while also having the courage to remind those people that love should never be mistaken for obligation, and that respect is the strongest foundation any family can build upon.